for those of you who do know me, you know probably part of me. People have only ever met me in the industry here and there, but a lot has changed, and the world's got really, really small the last year. So, as Jean said, I now live in the Netherlands, and I work with a company called Atami. So that's me. I finally found a new LinkedIn photo. My old one looked a bit weird. They have it on the speaker thing. Luckily, AI means I could cut up my cousin because she looked weird on the corner there. But I've recently spent a bunch of time moving around in the nutrient space and seeing stuff differently. Basically, that all sums up that I've done a bunch of stuff. I studied it, I grew it, and I came from the background. I was growing as a farmer. I started as a farmer. I learned how to grow. I learned how to work with cannabis, and then somehow someone found me and told me that, hey, you need to get involved in this industry. Come out from the background in complete isolation and come join the industry. He's sitting over there, so thanks, Laurie, for that one. But that's been my story, playing in the background of what I've done. I've always just been there, but never part of the industry the same way. But I come with some pretty cool stuff, and I studied a degree that was probably the most complicated thing I could have ever done. It's one of the largest degrees in agriculture that the University of Pretoria offers, actually is the largest that they have. And it never made sense to me. It's a degree that was covered across the board, everything from statistics, Mendelian genetics, business law, economics, food science, and all of this was always going, why do I need to learn so many random things? For the first time in my life, my degree made sense to me, and I phoned up my lecturers last week to ask them, going, I think something's missing, I need to get back into my postgrad. Because I finally found the data sets that are complicated enough and interesting enough to carry on studying a bit more, because I'm dyslexic, I have ADHD, studying's not meant to, I shouldn't have ever passed high school, but I did. Because, well, I was farming, I love farming. Turns out you can study stuff if you enjoy it. So in the last little bit, I have gone through those countries, and I'll touch on them in a bit individually, and we can have some discussions about them, because that's what I want this to be. I want it to be a bit more of a discussion. Because first and foremost, I'm a South African in the global industry, and I get to go see and do a bunch of things and see a bunch of information, and that's all I spend my entire days doing, is consuming information in this industry. But I'm getting to see it from very different aspects. And I think that's something very important, because a lot of you here have only ever seen the industry from one side. How many people here, and by show of hands, have ever seen the industry from the illicit side, or know what happens in that side? How many people here have only ever seen this industry from the legal side? It's about the same. There's a lot of people. But guys, there's this giant space in the middle where everything happens. And the one thing I can tell you now, having come from the legacy side and gone all the way to the extreme legal side, when I used to deal in traceability software and QMS systems, which is not my forte at all, that full level of legal, I chose to come back into the middle, because that seems to be where this industry is starting to settle. Information's traveling from the legal side of it, where we have some people coming over from the Netherlands and that work in global, huge cultivation spaces. We have a lot of people that are into farming that come from huge farming backgrounds. I was one of those people. But we also have people from the legacy market that are moving over and making a transition into the legal. The quality is getting better than it has ever been. And I think that's where that industry is going to settle in the long run, because I've had a lot of people ask me and say, how can anyone know where this industry is going? I took a really complicated degree, and a lot of stuff doesn't make sense to me, but I think I know where it's going. It's starting to stabilize, and we're starting to see that, because more and more people are starting to share the same room and start talking and having conversations. And that flow of information is by far the most important thing that I can bring back as a South African to here. So Adrian was talking about it earlier, about what Safrican is doing and getting product out. Guys, at the end of this talk, and everything I need you to look at and think of is, if we don't get this together and we look at what other countries are doing, feedback, as a South African industry, we are dead. Don't get that wrong. I'll be all doom and gloom, but I'm probably the happiest pessimist you'll ever meet. Because if you can survive the worst case scenario, who cares what happens? So I recently joined these guys. So does anyone know who these people are? That's the problem. So we're a nutrient company. We have a Dutch nutrient company. We've been around since the 90s. And our entire market has always been recreational. And it's a very different industry to what we've seen over the last few years in South Africa. And there's a lot of people that have come from that recreational space that know what I'm talking about. But for the first time, I get to come back as someone that has been taken behind the curtain, behind the scenes, down to one of the most fundamental things in growing that is outside of your environment, your genetics, and we're one of the most important inputs that you could put into your plant. The nutrient guys. At the end of the day, it's all going to come down to everything will always go down to, because we're the people that can affect the flavor, the taste, the yield. It comes down to us. So I've learned a few things along the way here as we've gone through, and this is just to prove a little bit of, here's me, this is my opinion, this is where I came from, these guys and their opinion and where they come from. Because the one thing that everyone doesn't know is this is the first presentation that Atami's given to people like this. We've never worked in the commercial space. We've never stepped into that. But guys, we've done some pretty cool stuff in the background. We have research, we have R&D. There's a lot of nutrient companies here that have all done the exact same thing that are starting to come out. There's a lot of overlap in commercial agriculture where a lot of these aspects will all be taken into large-scale commercial, but there's some little niches and on R&D and projects that we've done. And that is the most important lesson that I think I can show, because we have a pretty good CV so far. These are all the events that we go to globally. I get to go to a lot of them. I've only been in the company 7 months and I've been to a bunch of countries. But this information, and that's the only thing that I can peddle here that is actually valuable, is each of these places have their own market that is forming, that is fighting for a global space, on shelf space across the world. And people like us, or people like me, get to go and meet these because, guys, it is a full-time job. I can barely keep up with the amount of information that comes across my daily that it's ridiculous. So we have different shows that we go to. We're all over the place. And as I said, the only reason I'm telling you this is to try show that, guys, we know what we're talking about, so that when we talk, people listen, because otherwise there's no trust in the industry. So we do a lot of our research at a company called Inexo, and Sunny will talk a bit more about them later and I'll run through, but these are our research trials. So one of the first things I did when we got to the company, we took a look at our research and I said, guys, let's do something specific. So I picked a fight with Athena. And I'll show you that now. I'm excited about that one. So our validation testing, if you want, you can go meet them. Inexo has some amazing research, and I'll show you some of the cool stuff that they're busy with to prove that if you want to go test us, go ahead. We're happy to do it. We're open, we're transparent. We'll do third-party testing. If anyone else wants to do additional testing, we'll do it too. So this is just a little bit about us. We're running through, and this is the product that we decided to pick. This product's been one of our oldest and has existed since the 2000s. We decided to go pick an old product, not a new product, not a new innovation, an old product, but with new information at hand. So high-performing salts in the market, is, we all know, are usually the best. They're cheap, they're effective, but there's always something missing. And there's a few of us in the industry that know that. I know there's a few people in this room that I can say, you know what I'm talking about. But there's just something that's missing in all the top tier flower on the market at the moment. It's not quite what it should be. But only because we've grown it ourselves. We know what they should be because, well, we did the R&D for you. So this is a little bit of a setup, and happily be transparent because I want everyone to question me. I want people to test it. I want people to prove it, because that's how we move forward. So this is just what we did. We went from clone. These are the strains we were running with the strawberry, and we did a vegetative, which we had to ask our facility to change because, and Sunny will talk about now, and I'll show it a little bit later, is they actually specialize in no-veg cultivation, so going directly from clone to flower. So we had to change up a little bit. It cost us quite a lot of extra research and man hours to go, hey guys, can you give us a 2-week veg period? And the reason we had to do that was facilities at this point, the industry standard is a 2-week veg period. If you're going anything longer than that, hate to break it to you, not overly efficient. This is the recipe we ran. There's your base salts, your core, your bloom. Those are the numbers we ran. You can test it yourself. And that's the product that we added on at 1 ml per liter. And that's what we got. I can tell you now that that number will not be the same for every facility here, will not be the same for every strain, will not be the same for every cultivar, or whatever you want to do. This is in our research, given our parameters with these plants being pushed at that level. But that was the initial results of our testing that we got back in December. I actually got them, James knows, he was the first to see it. I got them 2 days before NJ BizCon. But that's what this industry does. We've never had to do third-party validations outside and prove like this because that wasn't a market we ever played in. But now coming in, I could not approach any one of you as a facility unless I have a piece of paper that says, guys, here's something testable, provable, try it out. So this is what we get up to, and this is what we do as a company. And the reason I want to show you that is because there's a lot of information hiding in places that no one really talks about. I got thrown into an industry that became a very us versus them. I think that's the last one, and then we'll go on to the countries now. But before then, I got thrown into an industry that was us versus them. Well, the them was licensed, medical, and any of the research has gone forward. But we were the us, we were the legacy guys. We were the gray area. We were the space that played in between. And one of the first things I got told when I joined the company going, they will never accept us. And I know to a lot of you that might not play and might not ring, but there's a few people in here that know exactly what I'm talking about. The same way that I'm a farmer, but I'm also English. You want to see how much crap I've had my entire life and not speaking Afrikaans? It's difficult. Same thing, but in cannabis politics. So the one thing that we've done with the company, and before I went and gave you a solid opinion, and I'm not good at backing myself in terms of that, the only way to know this is to go get information firsthand, because I think by show of hands, I would love to actually see, genuinely show of hands, how many people have found it hard to get the information they need currently to make decisions in this industry. I'm part of that, and the rest of you, I think you're all lying. Or you just don't know that information's out there. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to look for it. So I went on an adventure to go find it. And this is where the discussion points start talking in. We're going to go country by country, and if there is anything specific that I can answer, please do interrupt on a question. And that's a bit different, but I'd rather deal on country and country than trying to go back to it later on. So I went to Portugal. I've dealt a lot with Portugal from the medical side, and Portugal is a very interesting space. Portugal is probably, in terms of what we are competing against in Europe, countries like Portugal, later on Italy, are going to be our major competition that are in Europe. And I need you to understand this, because one of those things that I did was global policy and trade economics. Because if they come online in Portugal, they'll do everything to stop us getting in. And this is why we've seen things like barriers to entry, including the incredible price, one, for the skills and with that, the resources you need for an EU GMP. But guys, that will be used against you as often as possible as exporters. And I'm speaking to you as a South African, as a farmer that's in my industry going, has anyone thought about what happens when trade politics start playing out? Because countries like Portugal are going to use everything they got to stop you from getting into their market. And they'll do the same for every other country outside of it. That hasn't even started yet. But those are just a bit of food for thought. So Portugal coming online, a lot of medical facilities, looking great. They're still figuring it out. There's a lot of business drive. There's been a much bigger uptick. And at this point in time, I thought they were coming here, but there's actually one of the larger Portuguese company and medical companies that's in South Africa shopping around for bud. I know Samai Pharmaceuticals is in South Africa at the moment. Portugal coming. They're looking for sourcing, supply is limited, but there are houses and powerhouses that are being set up in Portugal throughout the industry. We have a lot of the global reps for different countries have all slowly started migrating to Portugal, specifically in Lisbon. It's a low cost of living, it's easy access. And Portugal in itself, from a different aspect, not even from a medical, is starting to form itself as a bit of a cannabis knowledge hub. And by that, we're highly disadvantaged because, well, we have events like this and there's a lot of people that aren't here that should be there. I know Cape Town go through, but when people talk and people interact, things move fast because there is so much information out there that the only way you can rely on it is other people to go get it for you. And we horse trade. I'll give you this, you help me here. But the end objective is that we have to build the whole industry forward. So Portugal, licensed grade medical cultivation, they're highly strict. I'm really good friends. I used to work with one of the EU GMP inspectors that side. Jackie, if you ever want, I can link you up with him. He did a bunch of Portuguese, and it's just fun to have good conversations with people like that because that knowledge is really where you need to do it. So Portugal, nice, couple market barriers entry, but they're a poor country in Europe. They are one of the worst in the European space that has favorable climate. And they really are taking this seriously. So that's just a little heads up, and that's the same what I learned in Portugal. So and maybe if there is any question on Portugal, I can answer, but I've stuck to my niche because my niche at the moment is the recreational side. I'm only getting back into the medical side now. If not, then we can go over to Germany, which I don't know that much about the German medical market, but I got to go learn a bunch about the German recreational market recently. There is innovation coming. There is genetics coming. And I got to meet some guys that have been in this industry for the last 20, 30 years in the background, playing with genetics, breeding, and supplying local consumers in the German market. Why is this important? How many people here are trying to sell to Germany? A lot more. Everyone wants to sell to Germany. Guys, there's a ton of money in Germany. Just straight up. They spend a lot. It's worth it. But this information and knowledge of what's happening in the recreational space will affect you as an exporter and a company, playing along with what genetics, flavor profiles, and how you target your German consumer. Because how many people know who consumes their product? I was lucky enough to actually cultivate and have direct connection to my consumers once upon a time. The amount of shaping that helped me do in shaping what genetics I ran, what I grew, was huge. So to know that there are people in the German industry that have shaped German cannabis, we know that it has existed because it exists in every market. The reason I know that is because, well, I know where the nutrients go. So over there we have the Netherlands. This is homeland. I didn't put them in any specific order, but this is where I've been hanging out. There's a lot happening. We've got some cool research. We have an incredibly good horticulture industry. And I say we because it's home. I've been that side now. And I've got to meet a lot of top Dutch horticulturalists. And I'll mention Sunny again and go through, and I've been able to see some of the research trials that they're going into. What are these guys are doing? And they are honestly so confident. Sunny, who was running the trials by you? Who hit up the tech for your project? Yeah, with Vertify. So the guys from Vertify, I spoke to them and go, can you match the legacy growers? And that's the question I ask a lot is, do you think you could do a good enough job to produce the quality that we've spent years mastering? And they were like, yeah, we can probably deck out 20 greenhouses in 2 months and kick it out here. The level of confidence that they said that at was slightly scary. While in the Netherlands, and there's trials I'm running through, was also the most perfect SOPs I've ever seen for autoflower production in seed. Within 4 batches of seed, so someone that had never grown cannabis before, I saw perfect uniformity, a near perfect germination rate, across canopy, and not even talking the seed genetics, just a horticultural tech, without his knowledge applying agricultural principles, was able to rock out autoflowers. And not a lot of people know about autoflowers, but they're very finicky. They don't like being transplanted. I watched all of those be successfully transplanted, and I do believe that round of trials was scrapped because the plants got too big and fell over. You got autos that are sitting, what was about that big? Guys, that was 4 cycles. How long have we been doing this for? A lot longer. And these are the little nuances that I want to bring to this by discussing what's happening in these countries, what skill sets they bring, because we have to play to our strengths. You heard Adrian talk about it earlier. We have to play to our strengths in order to survive in this game. So, Dutch horticulture, I've seen what they produce, I've tasted their stuff. These guys can grow. Whether they'll be able to grow the same quality or flavor and fill that need, that we will see. There is research trials at the moment now, and I don't know if anyone knows about those, a few people do, but there is 10 licensed cultivation facilities that have been given licenses in the Netherlands to cultivate, to supply 10 municipalities, and it's 80 coffee shops. Correct. The volumes that they have to produce are ridiculous. These guys have to turn out to be able to part of this, I think to qualify, I think it's 20-something kilos of hash a month. I'm looking to Sunny this because he's more involved in this. I stay out of the Netherlands. The Netherlands is the only country I don't work in. It's the one I live in, just for legal reasons. Because, well, Dutch law is not really cannabis friendly, surprisingly. That's a whole different discussion. If anyone wants to talk to me about that later on, the coffee shops, what happens, I spend a lot of time visiting them. And I go into these coffee shops regularly because I have the time, but it's purely from a market research because I cannot promote and work. So if I'm not traveling around, I go into coffee shops. I try what flavors are there. I look at pricing. I look at brands. And I look at what everyone's consuming across different regions. And I've probably done about 100 at the moment. I really need to start ticking them off at some stage to see who has different flavors in each region, who has different varieties, who has different pricing from one block to the next, who has a brand of a coffee shop that's relying on their coffee shop name brand to sell a lot of product. But what's now happened is we now see a rise in Californian brands on Dutch shelves at incredibly high prices. I mean, you can pick up Wizard Trees and some of the Doja stuff at 25 to 30 euros a gram. On a retail space, if we were getting 600 rand a gram, I think everyone in here would be very, very happy. But that's the discussion at the end. We'll talk about the branding and marketing side. But these are trends that you don't get to see, but I do. And the one thing that's really good about me, if you know me, I can't sit still. I see everything. So I put that to use, gathering as much research for every country I go to go hang out and see what's happening. And the Dutch coffee shops are one to be looked at because they're a historical cannabis market. They control the British consumers because if anyone's gone to Amsterdam in the last couple of years, you'll realize it is flooded with tourists and most of them are British. They have spending power and they're showing that they are voting for certain brands, but they're also voting for the ones that aren't very good. They're voting for the ones that are marketed to them. Because now we've seen a transition where these brands that are popping into the Netherlands on coffee shop shelves are in the UK, all being smuggled in, all being pushed in, but authentic brands that can be traced back to suppliers in California are selling at premiums because everyone wants the new. Everyone wants the nicest stuff. It all kind of tastes the same, honestly. But these are the trends that we're starting to see in shape. So now the UK is being shaped by Amsterdam because that is their closest market. That is Vegas for them. They come there and they go sort seaweed. That has been a historical market. I grew up with that. And I didn't even grow up in a household. I grew up Mormon. So drugs weren't really a thing until much later on. Sorry, Mom. And by the way, my mom's at the back. She came to watch me. It feels like high school. I'm super nervous. But those trends are really things that you guys need to be paying attention to. Because what's happening is the UK market is you have medical facilities that are now trying to recruit Instagram influencers and that to start trying to target local medical patients in the UK, because we all know medical is just a guise for us to be able to sell recreational. That's where the real money is, and I'm not taking anything from medical. There's a lot of people that have medical that is helpful. I've given quality product to patients. It makes a huge difference, but guys, that is not the main market that we're all after or all sold on. Truth hurts, sorry. But now you have people that have never seen behind the scenes in the cannabis industry that are dictating consumer demand to other consumers, and that is broken in the system. And that's something I get to see every week. I go hang out in coffee shops and I just sit there and I just go watch and I go ask the odd person, hey, what are you buying? Hey, why are you buying it? And then I watch their reviews. And I'm starting to be friends with a few of these people. And I sit and I watch what they do as a consumer. And this has started changing a lot of things of how I see everything. Because I'm way back. These guys have only just started learning that genetics companies exist. And we can thank some of our friends in California for making that out, because they were legally allowed to show that. They were allowed to basically connect their entire production chain and showcase all of it legally. So these consumers finally know a little bit about stuff. But the people that are dictating to everyone else, honestly, have never seen what goes into a cannabis facility. They do not know what goes in behind it. They do not know the technicalities of producing medical. They do not know what goes into breeding a strain that takes years to refine. They go, hey, it looks shiny, it's nice, it's frosty, and it'll get me high. I have videos that I could have played and kept through, and I told everyone I'll keep it PG, so I left them out. But there's people that literally have make a career, 1 million followers on YouTube, and all they do is review weed. 1 million people are looking at one person for his opinion on cannabis at this point in time in the world. And there's quite a few of them because they all rock up at the same events because they have enough buying power, because they're making money on YouTube and coming through. And the Netherlands has played a very key role in that. So whenever they pop over, I strategically put myself there and I go hang out with them at a coffee shop and I ask them weird questions, just about like, why are you doing this? Purely so that I can come back here and tell you about it. Because so far, I think, is anyone helping? Like, is this informative stuff that you didn't know about? So, next on, I didn't even leave it till last. The elephant in the room. Who's been to Thailand and the Thai market in the last couple months or year. Let's say 1 year, in the last 1 year, in the last 2 years. So I spent 3 weeks in Thailand. We just launched in Thailand. New products, no connections, nothing. So all I did was doing what I do is I jumped on the ground, walked around, and started going to the consumer shops and following the trace back. Guys, Thailand is murdering us. Thailand is producing so much high quality cannabis and is flooding the world. It has crashed markets. And I know I can back that because I have the sales data from nutrients and inputs in different regions that will show you that local production has dropped because of the influx of Thai cannabis. I got the confirmations yesterday when going to shops at Thai cannabis. And at this point, you can't even tell the difference between Cali and Thai. It's flooding the markets, which is going to affect everyone. And later on, this is important. I know there's people targeting purely medical later on that are going through, but when a brand opens up and you have to sell to a consumer market, you're going to be fighting imports at pricing and price points. And they're producing weed cheaper than you've ever seen, better than most people have ever seen in their life. And I think the price point there is I can buy bulk at 30 a gram, 25 to 30 a gram. These farms are still making money of flawless, indoor, salt grown bud. Because there's money in it and Thailand's poor and people work damn hard. I've seen more varieties of strains. I've seen everything grown under the sun. It is an absolute jungle. It is pure chaos, but some brilliance is coming out of Thailand. And that ingenuity that we are lacking, that sense of community, that sense of an industry, we are lacking clearly behind. And if we're not careful, they will take a portion of our offtake into Europe, because if Europe allows input in, Thailand will steal it very quickly because, well, they'll drop those margins down to the point where we're just not willing to work for it. And we've seen that, we know Chinese manufacturers will do everything cheaper, the quality is there. The change has come that the quality is there and the price is lower. And that'll link into a little bit about what we're talking about a bit later on. Any questions on Thailand, by the way? I mean, that one is relevant, or is there anything for later on? We can go back. Feel free to chat to me anytime. The United Kingdom, the problem child. It's not the nicest place in the world. Guys, oh, by the way, context, I left Africa for the first time in January. I've never traveled. So all of this is also new for me. I'm a really bad tourist, so I hang out and do weed and cannabis related things. The UK has money. They have way more money than I'd imagine even people at low levels, incomes go through. They have cash flow and they vote with that. And they're spending all that money, and we just talked about the Netherlands. They're spending it there. Those coffee shops are reinvesting it. They're getting brands out, but also because of that branding and association is that brand is traveling around the world because of it. And the UK has its own market. It is very underground because the UK is very illegal. It is. I got told, the first time I was there, I got reprimanded every about 10 or 15 minutes going, you cannot talk about cannabis the way you talk about it in South Africa. I've been warned about undercover police. And I was like, you guys are kidding me. I thought we passed this. But in South Africa, we are allowed to talk about it, but we don't utilize it nearly as much. We don't have these thriving industries that are leaning out. The UK has started to come over because they come to Amsterdam, they talk about it, they showcase it, the pictures are up, and then everyone goes back to the UK, shows off all their product, and they just say, hey, they just post as if they were posting from the Netherlands. And they bypass that rule. Home growers. I got to meet a bunch of the home grow market in the UK. And an interesting trend has arisen in the UK. And this one we just talked about, go through, but the guys that are doing well in the UK, because the UK market has completely crashed. In any of the nutrient companies, you can go there, they'll have the data to back it. The UK market as a whole, its equilibrium, its ecosystem has crashed because of the influx of California bud that was coming in high, and they're making good money because California is saturated, and they just send all their crappy bud to the UK. Thai bud is coming in so thick, so fast that it's caught every major company, producer, and everyone off guard that people are closing doors, walking into grow shops, dropping off stuff and going, I'm out. Honestly, that is terrifying because that's my business. I'm in the nutrient game. I help people grow. But that market has shifted, and that is what shifted the company into looking into the medical side and go through, okay, cool. We brand, pull it up. We have some cool tech because we've been helping grow top quality. But the UK is a big push. We've got a lot of medical companies there, and for the first time I saw, it was last week or 2 weeks ago, and I asked Greg about this, is why would UK companies be sending weed back to South Africa? I don't know if anyone's actually seen that. Am I the only one that saw that people are advertising flower in medical markets coming from UK companies grown in Portugal to sell in South Africa? That's the directions you want to go through. But this is happening out there. This is what's happening in the rest of the world. Guys, it's honestly scary. I'm seeing this for the first time. And the further I go back behind the industry, and I've gone one layer at a time, back and back and back, and you just see the problems all the way forward. And it's ridiculous. So, major futures, I mean, there's a few companies. I've met a couple of them. They're great people. They're trying to push out, but it's also, they're struggling to sell flower and also struggling to sell flower that's good enough. There's a lot of people who can talk about that for days and go on, but the flower quality for medical consumers, because guess what? We have people that are reviewing online for the first time in history, openly reviewing medical quality products. So you can go see what people think of your flower. And so far, the UK seems to be hit and miss with a couple of them. They're trying to try a strain, they're trying to get in the market, they're trying to get price point. But the UK is a very good one to watch because, once again, rich consumers, a lot of legal to jump through. And they're trying to find this balance between them because the illicit market is flooded with high quality bud from everywhere else. So as a producer, I watch what's happening on the ground there because that's kind of going to be your comparison to fight against and how they do it. And the USA, that was kind of underwhelming. Man, I was tired. I left Thailand. I was there for 3 weeks, flew straight through. Probably wasn't the happiest person because I was just tired, a little bit sick. But the US was kind of underwhelming. Went to MJ BizCon. There's a lot happening. Everyone's just talked about it going down, down, down. Look, for me, it was new. It was a lot of cool stuff. As someone who's never been there, it was really cool to see all of these. Some really good quality flowers, some discussions behind the scenes. But the best flower that I saw pop up happened to be people that grow craft limited amounts to certain people. From there, I took a trip over to California to go see what's happening on that side. I got to go hang out at MedMen. I caught the guy on the wrong day, or the right day in my terms, but the manager of the store just went on and on and on about how this company is terrible. It's run by a bunch of sneaker bros that don't know anything about cannabis, and they thought they'd apply it to the medical market, and well, MedMen was a $1 billion company that's crashing and burning spectacularly from what I understand. And the quality is kind of average at best. But it's a change. So for me, that was an important market to go to because California has now dictated world cannabis because I'd gone to UK, Netherlands, Thailand, California. And I wanted to go see, the reason I wanted to go there is I wanted to see what it was that they were bringing that has affected world cannabis on the other side. They are changing world cannabis. We have seen breeders, we have seen flower in hundreds and hundreds of tons and thousands of facilities have been influenced by California. The same way that a lot of us were all influenced by Amsterdam. It's tough to say that California was wrong in a lot of aspects. I mean, people are sold, and this links back to the UK and the Netherlands. There is flour being sold on shelves in the Netherlands for 20 euros a gram, even 15 to 20, that is considered white-labeled Cali, that is literally just says Cali, and they'll charge you 15 euros a gram for it. That is the level of a brand that has been built up out of a region. The region Californian weed is really, really good and over the top. Is Northern Californian sun-grown, where all the best stuff and all the best flavors are hidden, and a bunch of people that are like shouting at the moment on social media to go, hey guys, we're actually the reason, a large portion of why weed is good. The rest of you are just growing indoor, which you can kind of grow anywhere in the world. It's all the same. Keep it honest. That was a shocker to me. Meeting these guys, and they're struggling. They're small farmers. They're family-run farms. They're family-run brands. They've been there a long time. Are actually currently struggling in the market to survive because they don't have the brand recognition that the guys in the cities currently do have. And they're killing it. The most interesting thing I learned while in California was a hydro store telling me that after about half an hour conversation, looked at me and goes, Wes, I need to be honest, half of our income that we make as a store is selling vacuum sealed bags. And they're shipping drugs to Mexico. That's the flow. You follow the nutrients, you go through, you follow this, is there's product in mass getting shipped out of the US into Mexico. Because it comes with a label, it's Cali. So I went to the medical side and I got to see the other side of the industry, and it's pretty interesting because these things all piece together, and that's what's quite nice. So the US, I'll be doing a lot more. This year we're focusing on it. It was just a brief touch. Go see some. I learned about it. But guys, they have changed global cannabis. Whether we like it or not, in good ways and bad ways. Take the good, leave the bad, and let it develop itself. Because guess what? Growing Californian weed in an indoor environment the same way that they did is not South African. We're South African. Our climate is South African. Our consumers are South African. They might be influenced by social media, but they're not that. And I don't understand why people just go copy paste exactly what Cali's done and done the same thing. Guys, just because they're doing it and succeeded doesn't mean they were right. And that's the only thing that we're only starting to see now. Because for the first time, customers are getting around the world, are showcasing information is available that you can go see someone, and I did it, go test bud in every single country they go to and review it, look at pricing, look at what they do. It's just what you do with that information. So there's a lot of happening. Every state is its own little country. And the reason why I say America got it wrong is because America's data will never be good enough. It'll have to be scrubbed. So in my previous life, I worked in data. I'm really good at data. I enjoy data. The answer is in the numbers. I come from farming. Guys, if you don't know how to farm on a spreadsheet, you're out of the game. You're playing with margins. So the one thing about the data set that the US has never had is they don't have a proper free trade market. And that's what everyone keeps forgetting is California can shout as much as they can, but California cannot sell legally to the next door state, even if it's legal. You have facilities and brands that have jumped around, but because of that, there's still a black market element to it, which means the people that are taking the risks and being seen are warping the perception that the rest of the world is seeing of what's happening on the ground. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen is that what I've heard and seen on social media, because I go through and I've never been to these countries, so I sit and research, try to find people to follow, see what I'm happening, and by the time I get there and going, these aren't even the same industries. So that's the US. I will be focusing a lot more on this year, and I'm hoping that at the end of the year or next year I can go talk to you and we can put a presentation, pick a country, and just talk about it as a discussion, ask me what's happening, and I'll tell you because I was on the ground. If I'm there, I can tell you. If I'm not, I'll find someone who can. So this brings me to all of this and a few little points of learning of what we've learned along the way, and it is, and take a picture, we can chat about it anytime, but really the major things is branding, genetics, pheno hunting, basically all what it is now, because that's what we're starting to see. The companies that are starting to form. I went through a lot of genetics when I started growing. I researched these. There's a lot of genetics breeders that are starting their own cannabis ranges because they can control the IP from start to finish and their name brand was big enough without partnering. Seed Junkie has been growing a bunch. Wedding cake was made famous here. Wedding cake was made famous around the world. I've grown some exceptional wedding cake. I know who brought that cut in. It was exceptional. Thank you for that. That came down from the Western Cape. That was a good cut of wedding cake. But you look at a brand like that used to sell that everyone's taking it back and they're starting to streamline and go, wait, the only thing that I have that's valuable to me, because if I let my genetics, I don't even grow them, is my name. And this is what started changing the market, and that's what we're starting to see. The US is starting to shift. You have a lot of companies that are partnering up, showing their entire value chain, going, this is who we've partnered with. Because the value of a brand and who you associate with is massive. It'll give you validation because, let's face it, guys, you are brand new in this industry. This industry's been around for a very long time. It's only just kicking off. But there is nothing you can do, say, or show me that will say your product is good enough. Unless you competed against the people that have mastered certain things in the background. Having brands that you can work with and move forward with does help you skip a lot of that. Having the right brands and having the right information is also good. Because if you partner with the wrong brands and you haven't done your homework, they'll also sink your company. And we'll mention cardboard terps and the flavor profiles that have gone down the hill. Not directly. Cool. The role of innovation, tech, and efficiency. This is the fun thing. These are the few things. And there's, guys, I could spend days and days and days of this, of going through everything I've ever seen. And these are just the highlights, and I'll stick to friends. So we've done some really cool stuff. There's some really cool things in the industry. It's not all doom and gloom. We have a lot of help coming our way. There's a lot of new stuff and a lot of new tech out there. It's fantastic. So is there anything on this? Sensors, sorting, biostimulants. Oh yeah, so that's the one thing I do have to touch on is the Atomi side, and that is our bloomstem is a biostimulant. To sum that up in the best way possible it is what a plant does when under certain stresses, which can either be environmental, root zone management, crop steering, or attacked by pests. And one of the studies I read in the last couple of weeks was that it is scientifically shown that if cannabis plants are attacked by spider mites, they produce higher THC and terpenes. But no one wants spider mites because they also degrade the amount of chlorophyll in your plants, and your plants aren't producing as efficiently. So what biostimulants do is basically replicate that, give you the benefits without the drawback. And they're really good because they help plants deal with a stressful environment because you've triggered that correctly. And that is what that result that we saw on the the Athena trial, versus our bloomstem. Harsh environments, you add extra helping things, they'll push it forward, and they can really help the plant utilize everything it has. Because we are pushing plants further and harder than we have ever pushed these things before. The yields we are getting, the numbers, the high THC, these plants are under severe stress. So products like biostimulants really do help in that. And that's probably one of the best things that have existed in the industry that no one really knew about. And they complement other recipes really well because they don't have a nutrient PK value. You can kind of slap them onto any recipe. Just try them out. If they work for you, they work. If not, now you know. So just to highlight some of the people, and this is from our research, and that's the reason I want to highlight them, we work with them, is the grow efficient sensors for crop steering. I don't know if anyone here is growing in indoor systems. Do you guys monitor your root zone? Do you know what is your percentage dryback? Have you seen what that does in terms of crop steering, what it can do? And there's a few people saying yes, and I know that because I follow them, I see the quality product coming out, it always looks gorgeous. But this, just on its own, you don't have to change a single thing. You do not have to change anything else in your environment for the most part. You don't have to change your nutrients, you don't have to change your genetic, but just doing something like this with a root zone sensor and crop steering, you'll probably up your harvest by a good 10, 20%. You don't need to look at outside sources to go, oh, I need to throw into canopy lighting, under canopy lighting, have an environmental system pushing CO2 and a 1600 watt light, as much as everything else, in order for that plant to do well. Guys, there is so many low-hanging fruit that you can actually do without laying out stupid amounts of capital. Yeah, please don't skip steps 1 to 5 in the basics of cultivation. So, great guys, great things. If anyone wants to chat to me about them, I'll happily pass them on. They can have a discussion. It's got nothing to do with me. I just go, we use them for our research and I need them to validate me occasionally. And I promise I'm nearly done. Sunny will touch on this in the next bit in his talk, the no-veg cultivation, taking plants directly from clone to flower, huge time savings, cost savings. There's a lot that can be done with this and it is really cool. It is strain specific, it is cultivation specific, and I'll let Sunny explain that a little bit later. And then this is probably the coolest thing, because I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago by a very good friend of mine that runs the facility, and we've become friends because he's one of those people that you just click with. He goes, hey Wes, I got my results in. Spectral fingerprinting. His first results can validate that they can sort seeds based on characteristics that those seeds carry. We heard about genetics earlier today and genetic markers. So in the seed breeding game on volume, these guys can now separate males and females on seed. They can separate seeds on color, from what I understand. And it is just kicking off. The idea behind this, and this links everything to draw together, and this is why this industry is so complex, is because it happens in all of these little fractions all over the place. My mind is completely messed. I'm dyslexic. It turns out I'm really good at systems and ecosystems. Stuff like this means you can hunt out probably 10,000 plants, and you can hunt out a quality of 1 in 10,000 by maybe doing 100. Eventually later on, that you can get those seeds down to hunting out 1 of 10. The amount of time, labor, resources, and accuracy that this could do is huge, especially in places like South Africa where we might be producing mass on outside. I mean, we're talking about feminized hemp seeds, which is stupid, but why not just go regular hemp seeds, send the males over for hemp seed production and oil, and take all the female seeds, plant out, and we can reduce the amount of pollen in the environment. So this is probably one of the coolest things I've seen, and the first test results came in. So guys, this is really fun. If anyone wants to know about it, the research is there, trials. And this is one of the few things that I can bring to the table. So hey guys, this is here, and the sooner you learn about it, the sooner you can research it, the more you can know what to do with it, and you can plan it into your production. Because if you are hunting out, and I know people that have hunted out, if they had stuff like this, it would have saved them years. And that's me. That's our range. We have a lot of stuff. We've been in the game. Guys, we are in the commercial space, we've recreational space, but we do have products that we've researched and have R&D in that are actually applicable to this market. Not all of them. Genuinely, and to be dead honest, not all of our products will ever be applicable to what you guys do in commercial facilities. But there's a lot of companies out there that have 1 or 2 products that really are good. Try them all, see it, set up an R&D area. If you do not have an R&D area, I worry about you. Because that's the only way that you'll ever have your own facility and you'll only ever be in control of your own brand. And the entire thing is if you learn how to breed, how to get brand recognition, get a product out there and it's quality. I know a lot of these conferences, we always talk about the medical side, Guys, I did that for 2 years. I went back to what I know best and I'm sliding right in the middle and this industry is starting to mix. We have medical companies in Australia that have now partnered with name brand legacy illegal growers out of California that came to the table with genetics that allowed a medical facility, and I think it is ECS in Australia, were the ones, or one of the others there, that have partnered its partnership out that they can now sell Californian branded product from Australia into the German market. Because they bypassed a bunch of things. The brand is transferable, you can move it around. And that's just a little insight to what I saw around the world. If there's anything else, feel free to ask questions. I don't know. A little different. It's a touch different to normal. I don't know. Is there any questions anyone want to go afterwards? I don't know what the time is. I wasn't paying attention. Did I go over? I went over. No, way over. But thanks, guys. Yeah. Make most people's heads explode. Jackie, anything? Yep. No. Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll try to do something with the different.
Any questions?
Well, if there's not, then I will leave on one closing remark. Yeah? We do. We need a local market supply. We need to be able to supply locally. This is where events like this are paramount to survival. Because if we're ever going to have a chance of having a local market that we can sell to accurately, traceable, that you can be proud of the product you put out and brand it and say, this comes from me as a farmer. Because let's face it, guys, you're farmers, you're collective farmers. People who smoke and people who consume want to know where their product comes from. And until we have a collective voice, that's never going to happen because we're all busy fighting each other and not actually looking at the bigger picture. Sandcap and these events at the end of the day are the major things that bring this together because every other farming industry in the world has an association where they all play nice and get along and get their point across. So that's my little plug for this because I do believe in it. Yeah. They've already screwed California because all the bud in the market that's being sold as Cali in a lot of regions all comes from Thailand. The consumer doesn't know the difference. And the consumer is going to get blindsided one day and go, hey, by the way, this is actually where your bud came from. And they've been shouting from the rooftops, Cali, Cali, Cali. I had someone walk up to me in Thailand and go, oh my word, I only smoke Cali packs. And I'm like, oh, that's cute. Has no idea who I am, has no idea what I do. And I try to have a conversation. He goes, I only smoke Cali packs. I'm like, dude, you do know most of your Cali that you get in the UK is now coming from Thailand, right? That's the quality as is. Think about Thailand like China. They can imitate and reflect anything. They can copy a product. Because we can't actively brand, we are screwed. Because you can swap out anything in the packet as long as consumers happy, it is quality, it is safe, and price is on point, they will betray you. Consumers, man. Look at the Dutch. They're a rich bunch of folks that they really like a good special. It's like Black Friday every day. Discount, discount, discount. Consumers don't buy less for the price, they just buy more weed and they spend the same amount of money, if you needed to know. So cool.
Wesley, thanks so much. I've known Wesley for a while, and there's a question there. I've known you for a while, but I just want to say you found your groove, dude. That's for sure.
I did, and this is why this presentation was a little scary, because this is the first time I'm presenting more like myself.
It's one of your best.
Thanks.
Thanks for that, Wesley. And you've highlighted the extra supply coming from places like Thailand. In terms of your travels, what have you seen, or in terms of government legislation, which countries are close to or that you feel will open up to increase the demand, say, in the next 24 months?
The demand's always there.
In specific countries, in your opinion?
So your biggest countries that are coming online now in terms of a long-term demand is Asia. let's go into the thing. Bangkok is Amsterdam to Asia. It is Vegas to America. The world comes to Bangkok. The largest uptick of new consumers coming into coffee shops that are spending premium money, that have way more money than you could actually imagine, that are spending 500 to 1,000 rand a gram on some quality products that were branded to them, are Chinese tourists. All of your Asian countries have been very illegal for a very long time, so everyone's going there. All eyes on Thailand. Those long-term markets are going to be shaped in Bangkok. But unfortunately, those Asian tastes have now been actually shaped by California, from markets that were doing anything incorrectly, that has now taken socially across. So people are asking for certain products that has now screwed the consumer, because everyone is growing the same quality of weed in Thailand. It is easy, it is there, the blueprint is there. So for instance, the Philippines is in talks to come online at the moment as a production country. But all of your Asian markets, India and all of these places, are your biggest demands that are coming into Asia. Germany is always a big one. A lot of Europe is going to open up. Europe is opening up. Medical's getting in there, and medical, I'm guessing, is going to be the same as Australia there, where it is the guys for recreational. It just means they can trace it and go through. The Dutch pilot trials that we're seeing, focus on those. Those are also going to be really great in the long run, because we're going to get a lot of consumer data coming out, and the Dutch are very hard consumers. They will grade it. If you do not match up, they will go somewhere else. Done. So as far as demand's probably higher than it's ever been. The guys that are producing good weed cannot keep enough of it in stock. No. So I don't know if that doesn't really answer the question, I guess, but does it give you a bit of where it's going? Is if the quality's there, the demand's there. It's going to the rosin market at the moment. So the outdoor market crashed. They can't cultivate those strains the way the consumers like. Consumers in the world currently have a perception of cannabis. It is visually seen, and unfortunately social media has ruined that for everyone, because people want a specific thing. Now you have breeding projects where Thai land races are being focused on. You have competitions where Thai land races are being brought in. But you're having breeding projects of Thai land races mixed with Cali genetics, European genetics. And that's the new market space that's changing, because those old products, they were never developed because they couldn't be. It was illegal. So I saw something about a large foxtail that is the most fluffy looking ugly bud I've ever seen in my life. It's a bud about that big, multi-little sides, everything else. That is a Thai land race. But it hasn't been bred yet because it has potential. It has cannabinoid profile that is unique. It has terpenes that are unique. So it's crashed, but it will start getting up. And I see a lot of the craft growers are starting to dig in. They're starting to go sun grow, and everyone's going up north, up to Chiang Mai, where the climate's good. That has really started to change, because that market is starting to establish, and it's the home growers. It is the recreational guys that back themselves, that have started businesses and been able to do this, and a lot of them become very successful, because guess what? Customers trust them. They were there originally. They were there already, so originally they were there. Yeah, it's trust. Because I trust the guys that put out high quality cannabis to me, because honestly, the growers that I know in my circles are harder on themselves than anyone will ever be, because the only thing they care about is growing exceptional quality and the best. Yeah. And that is the driving market, and that is what we're seeing in Thailand, that people can, for the love of going, I'm good at this, I think I can do it. The same way I'm standing up in front of you going, hey, I can be an industry professional. In this industry, I can see myself doing this exact same thing for the next 20 years if I want to. It's mine to lose. And that's what those growers stay for. Yeah, I'll link them up. They're friends. I'll give you a number. I'll link you up with them. I'll give you a number and cards. Go through anytime.